And we are back, episode 7 of season 2, Quantum Alchemist. I am your host, Mr. Alchemistic, but you can call me B. I am joined by my co host, as always, the very gracious Mr. Quantum himself, Alex Romero Benjian.
Hey, what's up, B and everybody else? Dude, happy Kali Yuga New Year
Hmm.
and happy Kali Yuga New Year to every one of you. Today's gonna be a little interesting. I'm actually doing this blind. I can see B, but I can't see myself, so this is gonna be a lot of fun. Lucky number seven.
Yep.
Lucky number seven.
Yeah, and how you guys doing with this energy in the cosmos at the moment? We had our lunar eclipse the day before last episode, and we're heading into a partial solar eclipse here on the 29th, which is also the end of Ramadan if you are a practicing Muslim. But there's a lot of astrological events happening. We detailed in we went into detail last episode all the different things happening. There was the full lunar eclipse, blood moon, and then there was the equinox the other day, and now we're headed for a solar eclipse. And there's all kinds of alignments in the cosmos, and the energy is super intense. Both of us have been feeling it. We detailed it last episode. Go check that episode out. Not a lot of people watched it, but there's some good information in that episode to kind of assist people through this phase that we're going through. A lot of solar flares, a lot of just wild energy with the Schumann resonance going spiking, and there's just a lot of intense things happening right now. Especially if you're on the spiritual path, you're feeling it extra. But even if you're not really on the spiritual path, you're finding this video and you're feeling off. It's just the energy's just been really strange, and then it's been reflected in the public. Right, there's a lot of weird stuff going on with the people firebombing Teslas and this political climate just getting spicier and spicier
Oh
with
yeah.
a lot of just bizarre stuff, and whether you fall on the left or the right, there's just, you got to admit, like, it's just kind of it's gotten more and more divisive. I was hoping, obviously Trump has been this divisive figure since he came on the political scene, but I was kind of hoping that it would calm down a little bit once he took office, but now it's just like ratcheted up to like weird proportions where the leftists are mad at Elon for uncovering waste and fraud in the government, and they're
What a
simping,
concept.
simping for money laundering. It's really weird,
It is bizarre.
and it seems like, no matter what Trump does, he said it himself, like, I could cure the worst disease, and he said it in the that speech he had. I could cure the worst disease, and they'd still hate me. And it's like Elon too. Elon just sent a the SpaceX rocket to save our astronauts who are in peril on the space station. Saves two of our astronauts, and the media doesn't mention it at all.
I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because the media is trying to discredit this dude because he's literally coming after their honeypot, and that's the most bizarre to me as well. But I mean, people seem to be, if you're not a completely mind captured ideological leftist, you see it. You see what's happening with the media and how it's demonizing Musk, and there's this coordinated effort against Tesla. And I saw a funny little thread on Instagram threads of this woman who's a Tesla owner. It's like, I've owned my Tesla for 5 years. I paid it off. I'm a leftist too, and I keep getting threatened, and people are, and I just feel unsafe, and I don't understand why. Like, I'm on your side. Please don't firebomb my Tesla or key it. And this is kind of like the left is eating itself in a lot of ways, because
Yeah.
a year
It's
and a half ago,
self-cannibalizing, self-cannibalizing.
yeah, a year and a half ago, Elon Musk was like this hero on the left. He was, helping save the planet with his electrical vehicles, and he was helping Ukraine with SpaceX, right? He was helping them with their internet, with the SpaceX stuff, and doing a lot of remarkable things, which he's still doing. But now he's like enemy number one because the media told you to hate him. And that's the kind of type of stuff I just can't stand with politics is like, and this is the right's guilty of it too. You watch Fox News and it's all completely just bowing the bending the knee to everything Trump does and about he's the greatest thing ever. So I
Yeah.
see this ideological capture of the media that whether you're watching Fox News or you're watching MSNBC, there's this very obvious tilt to anyone who's watching. They're trying to, and this is the problem with media in general. We don't have an objective media anymore. We have
Yes.
ideological programming that tells you how to feel about the news. It doesn't report the news. It tells you how to feel about it.
Right.
Oh, here's what Trump's doing, and this is why it's bad, or here's what Trump's doing, and this is why it's the greatest thing ever. And then look at all these idiots on the left that are doing this stuff, or look at all these idiots on the right. And I'm consuming a lot of ideological social media just because I'm trying to grasp where these people are coming from on both sides. It's just this fucking infighting that I'm just sick of, and I'm trying to it's one of my purposes I feel is like trying to bring people together. That's one of kind of my motive of my life is to try to figure out how to reconcile these differences amongst people because as we've talked about, like the truth is the oneness is like we're all just one consciousness and there's this shadow element that's got everybody fighting and I'm just trying to look at it from every angle and figure out what's the way we bring people back. It's really daunting.
I think
Um,
we're doing it. This is it.
yeah,
And I'm gonna forward this to you because I want you to have it and I want to post this into the comment section later. Um, there's a lot of stuff going on, right now. A lot of news to talk about. There's a lot of things that are being set up in a way like disclosure of stuff, right? So, um, in a way, I kind of want this theme to kind of be somewhat of a disclosure by design slash what would you do? And I said that because that was originally when I hit up B and I'm like, yo, let's do this podcast on what would you do? And I said there's a lot of things that are being revealed that, obviously just like you mentioned it right now where Elon was the left's mascot and now he's their number one target which is really funny um and I say that because they're setting the stage for us to not necessarily like I don't think it's deliberately self-cannibalized, but I think it's a lot of like the trauma shock that needs to happen to like kind of like wake up, like the snap out of it type deal.
yeah,
Um like yeah, there's a lot of things that have been put into action that we were not in control of that, and I really do feel and I truly believe, and this is one of the things where like I'm conflicted because um one of our top watchers, Mama D, she called me and she asked me, she's like, I don't know what are people gonna do when they find out that the elections of 2020 were rigged? And it's like, well, I don't know. What are they gonna do? And then
well,
it goes
deny
through,
it, deny it, and this is
well,
the
well,
problem that. Oh, I don't want to. I just want to, to interject this.
sure,
Like,
sure, sure.
there is a certain contingent of people who will not believe the truth, no matter how much you pry their eyes open and make them look. Right? Is like this is the truth. There is corruption. Like, look what's happening with Elon, right? He's exposing this money laundering scams that's happening with USAID, and now he's digging into the Pentagon, and it's like he's like prying your eyes open and making you look. Hey, look, these leftist politicians are corrupt, but the people on the left just have been conditioned to believe that anything that's against their people is a threat, is fake news, is just propaganda from the right and they will not believe it. And
Right,
so
right.
that's basically to Mama D. That's what's going to happen. Is like
Well,
you could have
but yes and no, yes and no. And I'm saying, yeah, that's a possibility, but I don't think that's not the intention, right? So when I say that because um in order for people to in order for you to heal something, right? Like, how could you heal something you didn't know you had? You can't,
Mm.
because you don't know what you're looking for. You don't even know that it exists, the problem exists. So you have to acknowledge that there's a problem first, and then you have to come and try and heal it, massage it, whatever it is to make it go away. But you're not gonna do the massage, you're not gonna do your treatment to that thing unless you know it's there. So, and I say that because um in the whole election 2020 thing, and this is I will almost bet anything on it that it's going to come to pass that there will be a revelation that they will say that the elections were stolen, and people will deny, 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 no matter how much you tell them that it happened. But what's going to happen is this. There's not just that, right? There's a lot of implications that come behind that, which she asked me, well, what happens when people find out that the whole 2020 pandemic could have been avoided? What happens when people find out that we were basically left out to dry, or I'm sorry, left out to sea, or basically without a paddle or a boat, and that someone high up made the executive decision that the public wasn't to be informed about the treason that was going on because they had to conduct an operation, right? Now, and I'm only saying this in this context because I'm trying to paint a picture, right? You have to understand these people operate in shadows. They don't operate in light because if they did, they would be exposed and then they would get caught right away. So they
Mm.
have to operate in shadow. So, you had the 2016, 2017, where Trump came in, ruffled a bunch of feathers and shook up everyone, and then he exited stage right. I would say stage left, but he's not left. So he exited stage right and enters in the Biden administration. Now, um, my honest opinion is, you know, the only way, like there's a saying that says the when the cat's away, the mice come out to play, right? So in other words, yes, maybe the election was stolen and maybe it was allowed to be stolen. And maybe, just maybe, the American people were sacrificed. I should say, not even just the American people, the world population was sacrificed in the name of the greater good, right? And this is also, we have to think about like, how do elite occultists think? Elite occultists are some can be Luciferian, some can be Christian, but the Luciferian belief is that um, in order for you to do bad, you have to do good because there is a balance. Elite occultists understand the balance of the universe. You cannot be too much one way or too much the other. You have to walk that path. And in order for you to save the lives of millions of people, you had to you had to run the risk or the possibility of millions of people's of lives to be lost. And the thing is, like, who decides who gets to live and who gets to die? Well, at the end of that tunnel, it's you, because you had to choose to go and get the mark. You had to go and choose to go and get the jab. You had to consciously decide. Now, I didn't say that they made it really easy. I mean, they made it really difficult for you to try and avoid it, but ultimately you had to be the one to volunteer. So it is a self-sacrifice. Like, let's not get it twisted, people. It was a self-sacrifice. So so now at the same time you've got, well, who gets to decide who lives and who doesn't? Well, ultimately, if I was in that position, I think that they'd probably think, well, leave it to the minds of the people. Let them decide their own fate. We have to go after the culprits. We have to go after the evil people. But we cannot catch them in the act if we don't let them do their thing, which means we have to secede and let them come out of the shadows. Boom, enter Biden administration. And for the 4 years that he was in office and did all his things, and we go back and we look now at the latest headlines. Well, all the security clearances for the Biden administration have been removed. Like, and people are upset about that. You know? And it's like, well, why are you so upset about their clearances? Like they abuse their power. And I see you want to say something.
Well, um, I kind of well, there's a lot of stuff, man. So we're talking about the great work of the ages. This is the occultists, what they've been doing for the last couple of generations, that's several generations, couple of 100 years, maybe longer, right? Is this societal shift. And I'll point to Albert Pike's letter to Giuseppe Mazzini from the late 1800s. He was a high ranking Freemason. He was a major player behind the scenes, as was Giuseppe Mazzini. Albert Pike was the head of Scottish Freemasonry at the time, and also he was an advisor to, I think, Roosevelt. And then Giuseppe Mazzini was the father of the modern day mafia. So these are major players that people don't really know about, but behind the scenes, these are power brokers. These are people that were steering ships and knew where things were going. And so there's this letter, you can look it up. It's been debunked by people like, I think, Snopes or whatever. These people that don't want you looking in these rabbit holes have debunked this letter, but this letter is very telling. It basically lays out the plan for the 20th century and beyond for three world wars. World War I and World War II played out exactly the way Albert Pike described. It was about unseating the power structures of the time. In World War I, it was about the Ottoman Empire, breaking it up. And that's exactly what happened. World War II was about establishing a Jewish nation
In Israel state.
Israel, which is exactly what happened. Because out of World War I, we had the Balfour Declaration, which was the Rothschilds basically being signed over the rights to Israel from the English government. Look it up. The Balfour Declaration, 1919, I believe. It was after World War I. Out of World War I, that was the stage was set for World War II, which was the seeds of that were planted for the Jewish state, which is what Albert Pike said was supposed to come out of World War II, which is boom, exactly what happened. And then World War III was an ideological war between all the ideologies of the time, and the idea is to bring about a new ideology out of the old ideologies, basically to kill the old ideologies and bring about the ideology of the light or Lucifer. And so this is going back to what you were saying, the ends justify the means, right? These people believe that they are the benefactors of humanity. They're the ones who are steering us into this golden age that they're trying to bring humanity to. But in order to get there, there needs to be order out of chaos, right? There needs to be chaos before there's order.
Order of chaos. That's right.
Their whole motto is order out of chaos. So there has to be a certain amount of chaos so that they can bring about the phoenix rising out of the ashes of the chaos, which is the order, which is the new world order, the golden dawn, all this occult stuff. That this is their goal, right? And before the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed a couple of years ago, they laid out the plan for the new world that was going to emerge out of the destruction of the old. You can look that up, and you can see what the precepts were of what they wanted to build the new world out of. And So their whole thing is, yes, we're gonna have to do a lot of evil stuff, but we balance it with the good. But we're gonna have to completely unseat the structures of society, the ideologies in place, Christianity versus atheism, Judaism versus Islam. This is what laid out in his letter about
Right.
World War III. It was going to be an ideological battle, which is what we're in the middle of right now. We're in the middle of World War III. World
Well,
War III started with 9/11, which, going back to what you were saying about COVID and the 2020 elections, is that we're looking at 9/11, and you can look at that event, look at the towers falling. You could see that it's a controlled demolition if you compare it to other controlled demolitions. It's obvious. It was an obvious magic trick that they pulled, where they were going to show you the destruction of these buildings, say it was fire, but make you believe that it was actually what your against what your eyes told you, right? It was a complete magic trick. It was a black magic trick of a blood magic trick where they sacrificed people, and they pulled this magic trick right in front of your eyes. And
right.
people to this day will not look at that and see that that was a magic trick, that that was a controlled demolition. Those buildings were brought down. It is 100% true. And then you look at Building 7, which was brought down like a controlled demolition and didn't get hit by any planes. And then you got the fucking guy who runs who was the owner of the complex,
Right.
Larry Silverstein, in an interview saying we pulled Building 7, which means they collapsed it, which means they had the explosives in place in this building already to pull the building. And then it's a rabbit hole, man. And it's like the truth is staring us right in the face with 9/11. It was a fucking complete setup. It was an inside job. And then you look at stuff like the stock stuff, people putting put options on the airline stocks and making billions of dollars. Larry Silverstein profiting billions on the insurance claim from terrorist attacks. Like I could go into depth. I could fucking write a book about 9/11, about how it was a scam and how it was a inside job. But like there are people 24 years later that still will not admit that something fishy happened.
Right.
So to answer your question, Alex, about 2020 and about COVID, there will be people that will never, ever, ever come to the truth about those events, that they were staged, that there was something fishy that happened with the election and with COVID. Um, there's just certain people that aren't willing to admit it because
Right.
it's too uncomfortable to admit that there is a shadowy element that controls society. But ultimately, I just laid out the whole plan for you guys. Like this is what's happening slowly. This is the great work of the ages.
Right.
They've been
Well,
doing
here
this for generations.
and here's the thing, right? So like she asked me what would you do? And like she was furious, she's like, this is I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like people have the right to be furious, but let's calm down a second, right? Like if if we react, okay, and we do the wrong thing, it's gonna be no better than the thing that they did to get us here, right? Because what they need out of us is a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we take a moment as a people and like, you know what? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Yeah, it's fucked up. And like it's inexcusable, but we're not God. We can't judge. We're not in a position to make that judge. Like that's between them and God. Yes, we were all affected by it. Ultimately, this is a spiritual war thing. We just have to, our only job, and this is my personal opinion, okay? And people may or may not like what I have to say, doesn't matter. My personal opinion is our only job is to sit there and process. Process and understand what happened. And we all need to be educated about not just our civil liberties and civil rights, but also our human and divine rights, which is the fact that yes, COVID-19 happened. We were set up, but we had a divine right to deny. We had the right to do a lot of things that we, out of fear, did not act upon. And that is our own burdens to carry. We have to carry that because
Ultimately, ultimately, the key here, Mama D and Alex, is to understand that all of this stuff in the Matrix is a distraction. The one thing we have to do is come to ourselves, or like the inner realization of self.
yes,
Everything that's external is just it's really easy to get wrapped up in it and get angry at the, oh, look at how obvious it is, and why can't people see this, or what are we going to do, or this and that. Ultimately, every individual has to come to the place within themselves of their own personal power and knowledge and understanding, and
right,
not get wrapped up in ideologies and these okey dokes trying to group us into groups and boxes and fucking all this stupid bullshit that takes away our power and takes away our own personal identity as self. And but
right,
also like coming to the oneness of understanding these people that are captured, that we would like to help, they have the free will to do what they do. And like we can't get so wrapped up in them falling for the okey dokes that we get wrapped up in the distractions as well. It's coming to that place for you can view it all from a bird's eye view and understand that it's going to happen the way it's going to happen. And the
right.
only thing we can do as individuals is to know, come to the state of
Exactly.
knowing, and just being grateful that we see it, right? And we
Yes.
can help others. There's going to be people that come along that you know, okay, this guy's close. I got to fucking help him. Here's a little bit of breadcrumbs for you. We can feed the masses that are ready, right? But this is ultimately why the occult stuff stays occult. Is like some of this knowledge, we were talking about this the other day. Some of this knowledge is level 7, and most people are at level 1. And like level 7 knowledge is not going to make sense to level 1 people. And this is something that
No.
Nevin Parr, I've been watching. I followed him on Instagram. He's an artist, or he's a writer that I've been quoting from some of his books, his works. But one of the things he was talking about was the Kundalini awakening, right? Is like how so few people have gone through a Kundalini that like you can't really tell anybody about it because they're not going to understand where you're coming from. They're not going to understand what the experiences that you had. And ultimately, you're going to isolate yourself from people by trying to describe what you just went through. Because so many people are just going to discredit you and like be like, well, this guy's crazy. And because it's so next level bizarre, like this experience of awakening, right? To the oneness and awakening to your true personal power and like
Right.
all the
And
stuff I've done is with this stuff, right? Like all this fucking
well,
weird symbolism and like the mysticism and the
well,
truth, right?
I do want to add something to that, specifically to the fact that um that you get isolated, and I was actually something I was listening to a little while ago. Like, isolation is good. Like, we have to understand, people, like the way that the enemy and the negative energies attack you, it's through the people you love and through your money. So
Mm,
it'll attack you through anything around you, your environment and your money. And that's how it brings you down, because ultimately the only thing that can stop you is you.
mm,
So isolation is a way for you to go in and realize that the power comes from within, not from without. And the finances is really a test of faith between you and God, because God will provide. And
100%, bro. You hit the nail on the fucking head, dude. Like you need the isolation to one understand who's for you and who's against you, right? And most people, as much as you love them and they probably love you, they aren't for you. Like they don't want to see you excel, right? Other than maybe,
not consciously at least.
yeah, and also like when your light starts to shine, it shines a light on their shadow, and their shadow becomes triggered, and then their shadow, it's like the body snatchers, right?
Yep.
Like with the body snatchers when it's or Agent Smith, if you want to use the Matrix, it's like when the system understands that you're awake and that you're somebody that can awaken other people, and your light starts to shine on people's shadows, they go, or whatever that fucking sound is from the body snatchers. Like they look at you and point, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's like people. I've detailed my own experience of like betrayals and friends just falling off and literally betraying me, like stabbing me in the back, and it's like, and these people probably love you, but they're stabbing you in the back, and they probably don't even understand why. They don't
Right.
understand why they're doing you wrong,
Right.
but they know that there's something inside of them that says I need to do this guy wrong
Right.
and stab him in the back.
Right. Because
So
you're
the
different.
isolation is necessary for you, and the money thing too, man, is 100% right because what's I look at what I've gone through in the last 2 years since my awakening, and like, and I try to put it, I try to explain it, or I try to like quantify it, and because I know ultimately our job, my one of my purposes and your purpose, with especially with this podcast, is to reach other people who are going through this and help them through the tunnel, right? And so I'm trying to think of like find ways to make my situation relatable. But then I look at I've had support, right? Like my mom, I'm at my mom's right now in Georgia, and she's helping me through this. I haven't really had a job for a while. So like I've had to rely on my support systems to get me through this financial situation while I'm going through this and trying to create these long-term financial gains, right? This pinnacle path, this grounding my pinnacles to use tarot terminology. But um, so few people have that luxury resource, that luxury of just quitting their job and focusing for 2 years on creating, which is what I've been doing. I've been creating paintings and
That's called purpose, by the way.
yeah, it's like being in my purpose, like following my purpose and following the light that God is shining.
And
So
that's why
going
you're
through this,
provided for, because you have
yeah,
purpose.
yeah, but it's hard for people to understand to step through that tunnel. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to cut yourself off from these
It's
financial.
it's called faith.
Yeah, you have to be willing to walk in faith and not have guarantees of financial security,
Right.
and be willing to kind of rough it for a while. Like
Right.
my financial situation is what a lot of people would consider dire. Like, and I've been, Alex, we were talking about this last night. Both of us have just been through it financially, where it's like we see this vision, right? We're aligning ourselves vibrationally to the vision that we see of what we're supposed to be doing, our purpose, our calling. We're following this calling, but in the 3D, in the moment, it's really daunting when you fall back into your body and the 3D, and you're thinking like, how the fuck am I going to make it through next month? I don't have the money to get through next month. Like, where is it going to come from? But then your higher self is saying, well, you've made it this far, right? So it's just keep walking in faith. Like, like deep down, we know we're taken care of, but there's always going to be those obstacles that pop up, our own ego, our own shadow trying to find, well, what about this, dude?
Right,
How are you going to pay for this?
right.
Or,
Just
like,
just when you get a glimmer of hope, you're gonna get an email that says your phone bill is due. You're like, God damn it. You
yeah,
know?
or like, I was going through it last night because I had this little calling to do this. I go walks in the park with my mom and her dog, and there's this waterfall that I've been wanting to climb up the rocks on this waterfall at this park, and I've been feeling this like I really want to do it because I love climbing. Like, it's something like my little inner child is like loves climbing. So I had the opportunity to do it because the waterfall was kind of lower. It wasn't like the flow wasn't going as strong, so I could get up close on it. And and I did. I got up really close to it, but then I had to climb out. Right, I had to climb out of this fucking like 20-foot cliff, basically. Um, and so was trying to climb out, and my foot slipped, and my heel, or not my heel, my shin hit this rock, and it punctured my heel, or I punctured my shin. Got I got this bandage on it, and it's super swollen, and I can't walk without pain. And so it was like I was really down on myself yesterday. And Alex kind of talked me out of it, but it was one of those things where, you know, it was also one of those tests that reveal the gratitude, right? Is like it's God's way of showing you, hey, look, and this is when I get down into low modes. I'm like, where the fuck are these pinnacles, man? I need this money to do my purpose, right? And I go in these ruts, and then something like this happens, and my old tendency would be to be like, well, of course I got hurt, but like I kind of came to this eagle-eye view of it, of like, no, this is God's way of showing me, like, look at, you had the before yesterday, and when you hurt yourself, you were able to walk freely and do this and that, and it's something you took for granted. So now that you're going through pain, to do little things like walk to the bathroom, it's like it, now you can be grateful, right? And so this is the hard shit, guys. This is the hard perspective, to try to take this eagle-eye view of the shitty stuff that happens to us,
Yeah,
but it's all for a purpose. It's like forging our character for bigger things. Like, there are going to be huge obstacles in this future, in this vision that we have, Alex and I have, and we're being put through the ringer right now in our lives through every fucking thing that can happen. Alex has his own challenges. We've talked about it. His mother's got illness that is terminal. And you were telling me yesterday, you really brought me back, bro. I really appreciate you and love you for that. You talked me off of my little like grumpy state, just by you talking about your own challenges and the things you're going through, and then talking about other, a friend of yours being homeless and his challenges. And then I had this other, I there's this wrestler. I used to be a wrestler, and there's this wrestler who broke his neck last year, Chris Bay. And this dude was on the fucking rocket ship to superstardom. This guy is incredible. Like, I was watching his rise, as somebody from the sidelines that like watches younger talent. This dude's fucking super talented, and was going to he's on the rocket ship to his dreams. Broke his neck, couldn't walk, had to relearn to walk, right? And then I saw this clip from his benefit show that they had last night in Vegas, where a lot of my friends were on it, and he walked to the ring for the first time, and it was just inspiring and like just touching, and it just brought me to that place where it's like the gratitude of me being in who I am and where I am in life. And
yeah,
this is what we got to do, guys. It's just coming to this state of gratitude and understanding the blessings we do have, even in states even in times where it feels like we're lacking. Um,
And a lot of this stuff, guys, like we have to understand, like this is, and I know we're running short on time, that we're like this is not even like we're not even scraping on the surface at this point, you know. Um, there's a lot of things that a lot of disclosure stuff that's coming out that there's obviously a bigger agenda. There's something a larger narrative that we're being ushered into. You know, with I know you wanted to talk about the pyramid stuff that was that's coming out. Um, and there's more things going on with regards to U.S. aid and the removal of people's security clearances. Um, you know, I was watching this channel. I'm watching a couple things. First, understand everything is solar. It is astronomical, astrological, however you want to call it. And planets and energies do have a role to play here in some way, shape, or form. I recommend anyone out there who wants to learn more about the how the energies of the planets and stuff are directly correlating with our 3D reality on Earth. Look up Stephan Burns, Stefan Burns, and he's a geophysicist. I absolutely love his channel. I just started watching it. He's a smart man, but also a man of faith and a man of understanding of how these energies take play go to play. So I just recently started watching him. So definitely something that I would recommend people looking into, do your own research. And and then so that's from the external side of things, and then the internal side of things is the information. The information, because the information that is being put out, their information is being used as darts or as arrows to attack the entities of energies that exist. Because information is energy, and information distributed is a way of dissipating or increasing energy, because you could either amplify things or you could calm them down, right? You could either rile people up and make them stand up to give you a standing ovation, or you can make them sit down and calm down and be peaceful, right? But it's all about what you say and how you say it, and there's energy at work here, right? It's not me. It's not just because of what of me being who I am, then I'm just gonna stand up and clap. It's because there's an exchange of energy here. And when we come back from our break, we're gonna get into all this stuff. Thank you so much, V. I actually learned where the counter is. I finally see the counter on the
yeah,
top.
yeah,
So we'll come back in a few minutes, guys. We love you, and stay tuned because we're gonna get into a lot more.
we'll be back. And we are back with disclosure. And it's episode 7. I wanted to start off this part 2 with a quote from Joseph Campbell. And he's talking about a quote from Nietzsche. So it's Joseph Campbell about Nietzsche. And he said, "There's an important idea in Nietzsche of amor fati, the love of your fate, which is in fact your life. As he says, if you say no to a single factor in your life, you have unraveled the whole thing. Furthermore, the more challenging or threatening the situation or context to be assimilated and affirmed, the greater the stature of the person who can achieve it. The demon you can swallow gives you its power, and the greater life's pain, the greater life's reply."
Pretty deep.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's kind of kicking off our conversation personally yesterday about the stuff I'm going through. And there's actually, I have another quote that kind of piggybacks off of that from Omran Mikhail Ivanov. And this is for any of you out there who are going through it. And, we're all kind of going through it in a lot of ways right now. And we talked about that in part 1, a lot of the crazy stuff going on in the world and the energies and the astrology. So this is from Omran Mikhail Ivanov. Obviously, when the world is falling apart all around one, It takes great firmness and determination, great willpower and strength, and indomitable faith to persevere in doing right. But it is precisely in these conditions that there is great merit in doing so. When conditions are ideal, when everything runs smoothly, when everything is pleasant and favorable, it is all too easy to believe in good and behave accordingly. No, no. It is now, when things are going from bad to worse, that it is meritorious to persevere in doing what is right without being swayed or undermined by bad conditions. A disciple, a master, always tries to count only on the strength of his own spirit. In the midst of the very worst conditions, he will summon to his aid his inner resources of goodwill, love, and light. This is the mark of the truly spiritual man. If one relied on their words, a great many people would seem to be deeply spiritual. But when one sees that they are bowled over by the slightest adversity, one is forced to ask, where is the power of the spirit they're always boasting about? That's Omran Mikhail Ivanov from Man,
Interesting.
Master of His Destiny.
That makes me think of this thing which it's kind of like a principle that I live by. And I was watching this quote unquote, like I guess they call it inspirational video, where like it was talking about Elon like when he was in his younger years, and they were asking him like, you know, uh if he was scared, about his company's not making it, because it's not like it's a secret that Tesla and SpaceX almost both flopped simultaneously.
And PayPal too,
And
right? He started PayPal also.
he did start PayPal, but I don't think PayPal was at risk of going under. It was more so Tesla, SpaceX specifically, because of the three failed launches before his successful one.
Mm.
I believe they were saying that they had just managed to scrape up enough money for the final launch, and the final launch was a success, so they were able to raise more money. But the point is, like, if he was afraid, and fear is fear is the enemy talking to you. Fear is the only way that the enemy could stop you. And and yeah, like words can either trigger fear or truth. And I say that because one of the things that I've realized to get to where I'm at today is, or some may say that's not very far, but in with regards to what I've had to endure in my life, I would say it's like, if you want to get through the mud, as they say, like the only way in my personal like experience from walking in my own shoes was living in my absolute truth. And I say that because a lot of people don't do that. We tell ourselves all kinds of stories and narratives and ideologies, and we paint pictures in our own heads about how things should be or how we want them to be, but we don't look at them of how they actually are. And in order for us to really take account or take inventory on what our 3D reality actually is, it requires a level of truth that a lot of people aren't prepared to acknowledge. And And I say that because a lot of people, in acknowledging truths, would mean that they would have to acknowledge their shortcomings and their not so great qualities.
And
But
face their demons, like Joseph Campbell
and
was
face their demons.
face their demons and try to swallow it, right? You have to face down your demons and really go to battle with yourself. And this is the integration process in alchemy,
Yep.
right? Is not to turn your back on your demons and act like it doesn't exist, like a lot of ideologically religious people do, right? Is like turning you, oh, we can't look down in that hole, and they deny that part of themselves that is challenging them to grow. It's facing down those demons. And on your point of fear, Joseph Campbell has another great quote, which is, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek." So where there's fear, that is your indicator of where you need to go, and that's just what life is challenging us to do, to grow and to overcome those shadows and overcome that darkness, and to be able to swallow those demons is to overcome the fear that comes with it. And a lot of people give up on their success because they are afraid to be successful, and they're not willing to admit that to themselves, that they are
Right.
actually afraid of success.
Actually, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was I was actually a victim of that mentality or that mindset. I was afraid of my own success. I was afraid of things. I was afraid of what would it mean if what would be the implications if I was forced to rise up and if I had to have a responsibility over my shoulder, like what would that be like? And and then and then it became interesting because it was like, and then it became a fear of, well, what if it doesn't happen? Well, what if I don't ever get there? I think the fear of
So,
I think the fear of not getting there far supersedes the fear of being there. It's like, well, what happens if I don't get to be the best version of myself while I'm in this 3D plane? Like, what if? And then that's when I started taking action. Like, I do not want to leave that up to fate, because if it is going to be, it is up to me, right? That's how it is. And the disclosure thing is important because disclosure is going to I don't want to say skew people's perspectives of reality because it's already skewed. I think it's going to force people back into alignment of what actually is.
mm,
And and so the disclosure thing is one really big part of coming back to reality. Some people will be like, "Oh, that's just fabricated." Like, well, you could think whatever it is, but there's a lot of people who have lost their lives really believing this stuff, and there's a lot of people with a lot of power that are taking action in according to this information. Information equals arrows, equals fire, equals attacks. Whether it's good or bad, it depends on the information. It depends on the intention of the information. Is it used to deceive, or is it used to enlighten, or is it used to reveal truths? Remember, cosmic truths, universal truths, or cannot be broken. That's why they are truths. That's why you can do anything to truth except for alter it. You cannot bend or break truth. At the end of the day, it is what it is. You either did something or you didn't do it. Your justification doesn't mean the why doesn't matter. You did it or you didn't do it. Period.
well, and then the danger of truth also is that in a world of lies, and we live under a world of quantifiable lies. We have been conditioned with quantifiable lies our whole lives, such as, look at the pyramids,
Starting
right?
Yes, I was gonna say let's start with the Bible.
Let's start with the pyramids. Like, there's been a lot of mystery around these structures for as long as they've existed, right? Where'd they come from? What was their purpose? And for a long time, history was like, oh, well, it was the tombs of the pharaohs, and we know that's bullshit because you look at the astrological alignment of these structures with Orion's belt. You look at the details that are encoded in the geometry of the structure of the buildings are a reflection of the geometry of the planet. There's just so many anomalies with these structures that are just mind blowing, that make no sense according to what we believe these people, when these were created, what these people were capable of, right? Oh yeah, they made them with pickaxes and fucking pulleys and levers, right? Like no, like there's massive amounts of just next level technology encoded within these structures that imply a far advanced technology that we can't even duplicate now. So what are the implications of this when we've been told our whole lives if we want to get into the biblical timeline of human history, right? Oh, the 6,000 years, and yeah, it's like the Noah flood and da 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 da, and like we went from Eden to Noah to Moses to and then it's only been 6,000 years, but then you look at some of the anomalous things that are existing on the planet, and there is a vast history here that far exceeds what we've been told through ideology or even told through history, right? I point to this gentleman, Maxwell Egan. He's a researcher. He did a online book called Earth's Forbidden Secrets, right, where he details anomalous archaeological discoveries that really turned like our accepted viewpoint of human development and history on its head. It turns everything on its head. There are anomalies on this planet that are completely out of the what history and science has deemed to be our history and our progression as a species from picks and axes and fucking living in caves to where we're at now. Like the timeline's all thrown off. And back to the pyramids, they're now discovering that there is a vast underground structure beneath the pyramids that are cylindrical, like pillars beneath the structure of the pyramids that seem to point to some kind of power like that they're some kind of power source, right? Like that they're some kind of deactivated power plant or something that powered used the Earth's power, which they've kind of speculated about this as one of the possible uses of the pyramids is that there's some kind of Earth. They use the natural power grid of the Earth, right? Are energy creating structures, and this new discovery really points to that. And if these people just had pickaxes and didn't have energy, this stuff wouldn't be possible, right? These are anomalous structures that don't fit the
Right.
what we've been told. So it goes back to
Right.
what I was saying. Like we've been living under a structure of lies, right? History is lies agreed upon, as Napoleon said, and it's uncomfortable to reveal these secrets to people because of the implications, right? And people aren't willing to let go of some of these lies because it challenges their ideologies, whether it be religious ideologies or whether it be historical ideologies of, oh, this is
Well,
how we got here and this is how the planet
well,
works. And
well, let's touch
um,
upon that for a second, because you're right. These are massive, massive, earth-shattering implications, right? What happens if they prove this energy source that exists from thousands of years ago? What and what does that tell us about the origins of our history, which means that the stories given in the Bible aren't exactly as it basically discredits like it doesn't discredit the Bible itself, but it just discredits the narrative of the Bible.
Well, the structure of the stories of being literal, right? Like a lot of
Yes.
these ideologies of Judaism or Christianity are built upon the foundation that this is where these scriptures are to be taken literally, right? These stories are literal interpretations of real events that happen, which they could be events that really happen. But the way that these stories are structured, once you dig deep and you get rid of your outdated beliefs and the things that hold you back from truth, once you dig into the mystic implications of these scriptures, you understand that there is a numerical, mathematical, and mystical interpretation of these scriptures. These scriptures are encoded with knowledge that is deeper than surface level literal interpretation, right? So this is something we've talked about Bill Donahue, right? And he goes through the scriptures, the New and Old Testament, and enlightens people. And there's clips of him doing this on YouTube, and he's from the 90s and 80s, I think. So he was doing this stuff in the 90s and 80s, and they called him a cult leader, but like he was really shining a light on these facts that the biblical stories have a mystic element to them, and that there's symbology and symbolism that predates the ideologies that go back to other cultures, right? This is Manly P. Hall's The Secrets Earth. No, what the fuck is that book called? The Secrets of the Ages, or I've talked about it in episode three of
The Great Secret of the Ages, I think it's called.
yeah, The Secrets of the Ages by Manly P. Hall. But he talks about this as well. Like the key to understanding these scriptures is that they are written in a numeric language, Hebrew or Greek, right? And there's if you have they were tailored and designed to hide knowledge within them. And this even goes back to Christ's teachings, right? Christ tells his disciples, I think in Matthew, that there is a teaching for the masses and there's a teaching um, for um, the people who have been what's the word
Like initiated.
initiated, right? There's the initiated teaching, which is the esoteric, and then there's the outside teaching for the masses, the exoteric. And the exoteric teachings are the ones that survived into the ideologies, right? The surface level, outside, uh, outside of the inner circle interpretations that have become ideologies. But when you go and you dig into the esoteric teachings, these teachings line up with old cultures like the Egyptian culture, like the Hindu culture that predate Christianity, that predate Judaism in historical context,
Right.
that have these same structures, right? This mystic symbolism. It's all about the body and astrology, right? As above, so below. This is alchemy. This is the emerald tablets of Thoth. This is Egyptian mystery school stuff. This is stuff that goes back to Samaria, and this is what's ingrained in. This is the truth that's ingrained in all these different cultures, and this is the stuff that is deemed heretical by the ideologies because they don't understand the way that this knowledge has been encoded deeply in these cultures, right? God put his knowledge deeply ingrained in the symbolic nature. This is the narrow path. This is the narrow way. This is how truth survived the centuries, the thousands of years since this truth was first imparted upon man, whether it be through Prometheus, through the fucking Anunnaki, through the Nephilim, or whoever brought this knowledge down to humanity and encoded it because it's dangerous. That's why I said like that you can only really tell people this stuff when they're ready. Like
Right.
this is
Well,
level seven knowledge, and if you're on level one, you're not going to be able to accept this stuff.
you're
So this,
right, but this is what brings us here now. And yes, you're right. Most people are only going to accept this when they're ready. But we're being ushered into an era where we're being forced to now consume this information and us to rationalize it however we can, because that's why they're doing disclosure. That's
mm,
why they're showing the new technologies under the pyramid, right? Because what it does is it now leaves open for them to say, oh, well, if we were wrong about this, what else were we wrong about? Maybe there's other stuff here going on. Like maybe there is a prehistoric civilization that was far more intelligent than us, that had far more capacities than us, and maybe they never actually left. Maybe they never really disappeared. Maybe they're still here.
mm.
Maybe.
Or
And
maybe the Matrix theory that we've been through this program several times. Like remember in the Matrix, Neo was actually the sixth version of himself to go through the process, right, of awakening, and then he was the sixth Christ figure, and then you look at these, like I'm saying, man, like this stuff is encoded, and I was telling my brother this stuff the other day, like the Christ story predates the Christian version, right? It was in the Chaldean text. It's like there's different versions of Christ that pre-existed Jesus, right? It's like it doesn't tell you that Jesus didn't exist or that Christ wasn't real, or like it tells you that this is a story that God ingrained into the fabric of this narrative of humanity, right? Like the Christ is something deeper, that is something that is in within us, right? And it's in all of his teachings. The kingdom is within you. The kingdom is not coming to where sight can see it, right?
yeah.
It's
And
coming,
I want
it's
to
within
clarify.
you.
I want to clarify too. We're all chosen. Like there is no chosen one. Everyone is chosen. Everyone is called, but few answer. So think about that. Like there's
Well,
not like there's any special person
it's the chosen isn't God choosing you; it's you choosing God.
and
That's
choosing yourself
that
and choosing
that's
yourself.
but yeah, that's the key, is like everyone, like you said, everyone is chosen. We're all on the same path. We're on the same level. We're all a piece of God's consciousness. And the free will is really giving us the choice to be chosen. Are we going to choose us and God, or are we going to
Yes.
choose the matrix?
Right.
And that's the choice. And so nobody is the chosen one. That God didn't just choose me or you or Joe or David Icke or whoever. There isn't just one person. It's like all of us are chosen for this path, and it's like it's up to us to make the free will choice to follow it, or
Right.
we can follow the other path, you know. And but
Now it's
like
important.
you said,
It's
man, like
important.
we're so part of this stuff that we've been talking about since the beginning is this shift in consciousness where more and more people are awakening to this choice that they have, and that this knowledge that we are disseminating, this level 7 stuff, there's more and more people that are ready to accept it. This is the critical mass we're reaching in consciousness, where consciousness is shifting, the age of Aquarius. More people are being given this being awakened, right? More people, the veil's been lifted, and they're given the choice to just accept this truth, accept that we, this old version of humanity that we're coming out of is done, that
Right.
this is a bunch of lies, and that we need to turn our eyes to a new perspective and a new truth. So
Some would
that's
argue, some would argue that the Dark Ages ended 2,000 years ago. I would argue that we are just now starting to leave the Dark Ages. Like the
100.
Dark Ages hadn't really ended.
No, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy stuff about Tartaria and the mud floods, that something happened in the very recent future past, like maybe 200 years ago, maybe around the time of the creation of this nation, that something happened, right? Whether it was around the time that the United States was created or shortly thereafter, that there was some kind of giant cataclysm that wiped out a lot of or organized human knowledge, and then we just kind of gathered the pieces back up together and put together this mishmash version of truth that had became what we now call history.
Right.
But there's a lot of evidence that something happened within the fairly recent past that really shifted everything. Some kind of cataclysm. There's people that talk about the mud floods. They point to the World Fair stuff, these structures that existed during these World Fairs, and all these World Fairs happened around the same time. They had these giant fucking structures that just are gone now. There's a lot of unexplainable things that have just happened within the recent past, and you look at how information is controlled, how history is written, and how from generation to generation it's so easy to change narratives, right? It's so, I mean, just look at COVID, for example. Like we were talking about COVID earlier. Like look at the way that COVID was reported, look at the way that people see COVID, right? There's two very different perspectives on the pandemic, right? There's the people that bought into every fucking thing, got every fucking jab, believed everything that the government and the media was telling them, and there's
Yep.
people that are still wearing fucking masks. And
Yep.
those people see it completely differently from people like you and me, who saw from the beginning that this thing is some kind of fucking okey doke that they're pushing on us. I knew from the very get go, from the fucking first lockdown, March 15th, 2020. I knew something was up, and like I from the beginning. So there's those two wildly different perspectives of that time, and that's just within the last 5 years. So think about this going back 100 years. There's very different narratives that could have been actual, and I'll point to World War II. There's two very different narratives that came out of that, right? We had
Who
the
actually won
Holocaust.
World War II? Who actually won World War II, huh?
We had the Holocaust stuff, right? And then there was a lot of people who were Holocaust deniers. People don't understand how many people were really Holocaust deniers. There was a lot of people calling bullshit on the Holocaust, like, no, this is wrong, this didn't happen, and those people got snuffed out, right? And I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just giving this as an example. Why would so many people come out and say this is a lie when
Right.
obviously it's a terrible thing? 6 billion Jews lost their life. 20 million people died in Stalingrad. Like it was a fucking massive loss of life, right? It was a massively tragic time in the world, World War II, and Hitler was, by all means, by a historical account, a terrible dictator, right? But there were forces in the United States that were aligned with Hitler that they don't want you to know about. There was a lot of people denying the Holocaust, a lot,
Well,
like a
well, I
lot.
want to add. I want to add to that because I was doing some research on that, and it turns out that deep hidden behind all these things, also you'll find there's an organization known as the Jesuit Order. And these people have been really, really crafty at embedding themselves in just about everything in every major organization. Um, that in itself is a whole nother bag of cats, which we can get into.
Yeah,
And
we were
I'm
talking
actually,
about doing the Jesuit uncovering and a while back when we were talking about the Black Pope.
yeah, yeah. All these things are absolutely, they're absolutely imperative to understand, you know, a lot of the stuff that's going on. Because keep in mind, if a lot of the stuff were to come to light, what it really is challenging is the structure of faith. And you're talking about a billion plus Catholics on the planet, right? And religious peoples. And these people are not, they're not just Catholic. These people are deeply entrenched in all political spheres across the entire planet because it was in their interest. And so they've been financing wealthy people, they've been financing education, academics, financial institutions. Like they're behind a lot of the societal structures that exist today. Why? Because they
I
had to
mean,
carry in, huh?
Trump went to a Jesuit Fordham. Fordham is a
He
Jesuit
did,
institution.
he did, but I also looked into that, and it's funny that you say that because now whether or not one of the Jesuit things is people who are Jesuit are prideful about their being a Jesuit, about them being Jesuit. Which the interesting thing is, if you look and you do research, you'll see Biden actually swore into his office on top of a Jesuit Bible.
Hmm.
Trump did not. People could say that he went to a Jesuit school for sure, but I don't think he was a Jesuit. I don't think he is.
No, I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying that
Yeah.
there's people don't realize the influence they have. They've been the militant wing of the Catholic Church for a long time,
Yes.
and people don't
Yes.
understand that Christians, you guys don't understand whether or not you're Catholic or you're Protestant or some kind of denomination of Protestant. Your your preacher when they went to get ordained as a minister, right? When they go to like Bible college, whether like there's one in LA called Biola that was really close to me in the La Mirada. This is where the pastors and preachers they go to get their credentials, right? These are all Jesuit owned. These are Jesuit owned and operated. So whether or not you
Yes.
are actually in a Catholic church or a Protestant church, there's a really good chance that your preacher went to a Jesuit school, which is a Catholic organization, right? Whether or not is plastered on the outside as a Catholic organization, they were learned in the Jesuit way of interpreting the scriptures, interpreting the
Mhm.
scriptures. So there is a Jesuit influence over your church even if you're a Baptist or even if you're some kind of Protestant. And this is a lot of people don't know. And this is the one of the problems I really have with the church is that it's still caught in old Roman shit because of the Jesuit influence upon the entire structure of the ideology. And
Mhm.
even if you're in an ideology or a denomination that's not Catholic, you still have Catholic influence, and that's old Roman shit that has
Right.
influenced your faith. And this is the type of stuff that Christians don't want to acknowledge. They don't want to look into
Because you don't,
possible
because to do that would acknowledge the fact that they've been lied to.
well, and then the possible
And
like flaws of their own belief system, and
right,
and then it keeps them from looking into some of these mystical rabbit holes about Christ that he was, he learned under the Essenes, who were a mystic sect of Egypt, right? He wore the Essene garb, right? The white robe with the long hair and the beard. Like back then, long hair was not common amongst the Jews, right? Like it was not. It was seen as other than Samson, right? Like Jews kept their hair short but their beard long, right? Christ had long hair with a long beard and a white robe. That's the Essenes. Like look this stuff up, guys. I'm not just fucking talking out of my ass. And this is a hard
fair
things to
enough.
get across to Christians because it forces them to challenge what they know, and a lot of them have fallen into Christianity because low key, it's kind of the lazy man's faith because it tells you all you got to do is believe in Jesus and go splash water on your head and go to church one time a week, and then you can judge everybody because you're in the right faith. Like literally, it's the lazy man's faith. Like, and that's the wide path that I have a problem with. Is like there's a narrow path of Christ's true teachings that when you follow them, it literally causes a death and rebirth that is the being reborn in Christ. And it's not just splashing water on your face and saying, "Oh, I'm born again." It's like that's not it. And so
We go
that's
back to we go back to acknowledging your absolute truths.
yes, yes, and it's really hard. And this is something I had struggled with for a long time too, because I came across this knowledge in my 20s, right? A lot of the occult knowledge and the stuff about the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucians and the Gnostics and all of the stuff about Christ's true teachings and the mysticism behind Christianity and the true mystic roots of the oral traditions of Christ and all these things. This is stuff I came across in my 20s, and I kind of pushed it away because of my upbringing in the Lutheran church, right? It was something I was scared of. So this is something I have a lot of
There
experience
goes
with.
fear. There goes fear again.
It's like, yeah, the fear, like God gave me a path in my 20s to pursue truth. And I turned it away because I was so wrapped up in my old belief structure, right? Which I mean, everything is divinely timed, so it was meant to happen that way. But that's the experience I have now where I'm at with God in my path where I'm walking, the path laid out for me because I dispelled fear, right? I got over my fear of this truth, right? This truth that was staring me in the face since I was a kid. I never resonated with the church's message ever. I always felt, even when I was a child, there's something missing here. I just couldn't wrap my head around some of the things that they were telling us to believe, right? And it just didn't. There's just a lot of conflicting messaging there between what Christ said and what we were told to believe by the church. And I just couldn't. Like I was so young that I was like, who am I to question, right? So it took a long time for me to come to these truths and understand that God was trying to tell me all along, look, dude, there's the exoteric version of Christ and there's the esoteric version, right? Like Christ spoke in parables because there was the initiated interpretation that was meant for the disciples who were ready for the teaching, and then there was the exoteric version for the masses so that they can look but not see, so they can listen but not
Right.
hear. This is scripture. This is the structure of Christ's teachings. It was only meant for the initiated. You had to be initiated into the truth because the the power structures of the time, the ideologies of the time weren't ready for Christ's message, which is why he was killed. It was why the people, the Pharisees, the power structure of the religious ideology of the time had him murdered by the governmental power structure, the Romans, right? This is government and religious power that had Christ murdered, had Christ crucified, right? Because he was a threat to both power structures. And when you walk the path of Christ, you are going to encounter the same
Right.
pushback from the
That's
religious
right.
elite and from the government elite, because Christ's message is one. Come to bring a sword, right? He said it. I come to bring
Yep.
a sword, not peace.
Right. And
It,
what
it
is that sword? What is that sword?
it's truth,
It's truth. The sword is truth.
sword of
Exactly.
truth that cuts like a knife, and
Right.
it's not
Because
something that you.
what you can't bend or break is truth. That's why he brought the sword. Because with the truth, it will set you free. Boom.
That's a good place to leave it off on this section. Do you want to keep going, or you want to call it a day?
Okay.
I think we still got more
No.
to talk about. So let's bring it
Oh, I
back with
thought we
part
had.
three.
All right, cool. We're gonna come back for part 3, guys.
All
Stay
right,
tuned.
we'll be back.
Bruce.
Awakening the Kundalini requires purifying your chakras and transforming your beliefs about yourself and the world. For lasting spiritual growth to occur, the ego must die and be reborn, a symbolic process that requires us to go inwards, facing the darkest part of ourselves, our own personal hell. Our demons, or negative thought centers, live within our minds, barring the path towards enlightenment. In the same way as Jesus descended into the underworld for 3 days after the crucifixion, we must descend into our own Hades and gain authority over this realm before being resurrected into the light. Demons feed on fear energy, so facing them head-on with courage in our hearts strips away their power over us. By cultivating the qualities of the light, such as love, truth, and wisdom, we can transform our demons or fallen angels back into allies, thus giving them back their wings. Mastering your shadow side allows you to maximize your willpower and become aligned with your soul and spirit, a vital step before reaching enlightenment. Only then can we rise out of the tomb and into the light.
Welcome back to part 3 of episode 7. And we've been talking about disclosure, truth. There's a lot of things coming to the surface in this time. And it's really been a good kind of recapper episode for really the entire podcast. It's really opening up the next stage of what we want to do with the podcast, which is delve into some of the stuff in Alex's archives of esoteric, occult knowledge, things that he has a whole archive of literature and information that is very crucial to come to the understanding of, and what it really requires of all of us in this on this path and where we're at in human history is coming to these undeniable truths. And one of the hardest things in the way of this shift in consciousness right now is what we've been detailing, is like the ideologies, this tendency um, to kind of move towards the division that's fed to us, right? And these ideologies, like we want to identify with these ideologies because it there's a part of it that maybe morally or socially espouses our beliefs or our truths, but underneath the ideologies is a box, right? There's a box that you're being put in, and the problem with these ideologies, specifically the far left or the far right, is they're puritanical in nature. Is like, you must adhere to these strict guidelines or you're not allowed, right? And it's about turning your focus into a box, right? It's like so that you aren't able to come to these undeniable truths
True.
that are fit staring us in the face, that are coming out in this disclosure of information that the matrix is a giant lie. And that's a hard thing to come to when you've been structured your whole life and your identity is structured around ideology, is structured around belief systems that are comfortable for you. And we were talking about this, my own belief structures that kept me as an impediment from finding the truth where I'm at now in my 20s, when I was still ideologically captured within the church that I grew up in. And I have a really good quote from Charlie Chaplin that kind of is a guide, right? It's a guide to help us out of this ideological thinking, and it's really, I think, crucial to kind of put your finger on the underlying truth that he's trying to illustrate here with this quote. And it's all about self-love. And the quote goes, "As I began to love myself, I stopped craving for a different life, and I could see that everything that surrounded me was inviting me to grow. As I began to love myself, I refused to go on living in the past and worrying about the future. Now I only live for the moment where everything is happening. As I began to love myself, I recognized that my mind can disturb me and it can make me sick. But as I connected it to my heart, my mind became a valuable ally." And that's Charlie Chaplin. So
Yeah, absolutely.
really, it
If you
comes
guys
to
aren't,
self-love.
yeah, and if you guys aren't questioning, you guys aren't questioning your reality or questioning how you feel about yourself, right? Like, we should always be reflecting that self-love, and taking things, not necessarily being selfish. Like, there's a difference. You can have self-love and not be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is such a thing.
Well, I think the the important, like, razor to walk, right, is like the reason we gravitate towards the ideologies and the groupthink is a lack of self-love. We don't value ourselves or think our own perception or perspective is valuable enough to stand on its own. So we need to gravitate towards these groups and this groupthink that validates us and makes us feel accepted, and because we can't accept ourselves for who we are and what we believe, we need to join a group, right? But the problem with the ideologies nowadays and these group thinks is, like I said, the puritanical nature of the Puritan was like back in the old days, is the call it the far right or whatever, is you must adhere to the church and everything it says, right? Or you're a heretic. And then now with the far left, we see the same thing on the opposite side of the moral spectrum, but it's also you must adhere to these social norms that we're trying to ingrain in society, or you're not pure enough to be a leftist, you know. And it's like that forces us to eschew our own self identity and our own self love in favor of the group think, right? We must, if say like you're left leaning, but you don't really believe that abortion is a good thing, but if you don't completely adhere to what they say about abortion, then you're not allowed in this group. Oh, you want women to have babies? Oh, get the fuck out of here. Or or say on the right, right? Say you are right leaning, but you don't 100% agree with how we treat Israel, how Trump is like solely and so in bed with Israel, which is something I have a problem with the Republicans, is they're so like blindly in bed with Israel. Well, then you're evil. You would agree with the evil Muslims, right? It's just like, see, these are the lines that get drawn with these ideologies. You must be, you're an anti-Semite if you don't believe everything that Israel's this righteous nation that deserves to exist. So it's like you need to love
This goes
yourself
back to
enough.
question everything, right?
Yeah, and you need to love yourself enough to be like, no, or no, I don't agree with abortion, or I don't agree with Israel. I think Israel is a fucking apartheid state, and they're war criminals. Or I believe that babies should have a chance to live. It's like you need to have the courage of your own convictions and love yourself enough to not get wrapped up in these ideological battles that you can't win. It's designed to
Right,
steal your individuality, these groupthink ideologies. So love
right.
yourself enough to step out of it and find yourself. What is it your heart's telling you? And have that courage of your own convictions and just be
This is
yourself. And
this is super important. It's super important as we go into the following topic because, as things get revealed, so what's happening is the dark is being exposed and the light is being revealed simultaneously, right? So and by that it means, like, yes, like there are dark forces and dark opposition that has been at play for an extremely long time, uh far longer than anyone is alive on this planet right now. Like, this isn't just something that just started in this day and age. Like, it was handed down to us, and other people have been carrying out those actions to the T over eons based on people's premeditated agendas. Like, there has been a conscious effort to dismantle the truth of Christ, the truth of what Christ meant for this world, of what his truth was that he was trying to bring to the people. And in revealing that light, it would expose the darkness of all of the players that took part. And I'm saying this because pretty soon there's been a partial disclosure of a special list. We'll call it a list. And on that list are names of very important and prominent people. And here's another topic to discuss, which is when that list fully does get revealed, what are you going to do when you find out that your pastor or maybe even one of your relatives are on this list and you didn't know it, and they've been partaking in dark, nefarious operations that they didn't maybe even know about it? Because one of the things about military, now let's not get this twisted. Everything that's happening today is a military operation, whether we're conscious of it or not. It has always been and always will be a military operation because militaries rule the globe. So, and so by that I mean, you know, in military operations you have cells or silos, and they compartmentalize everything. This is why they have special compartmentalized operations, special compartmentalized projects. Then they have also unacknowledged compartmentalized projects, which is things that only certain privileged people have access to. And a lot of this has to do with people's belief systems, people's roles in also in their connections with certain maybe organizations, whether or not they're Jesuit or not, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But the point is that there are things, there have been facts or organizations, if you want to go back to the Knights Templar, if you want to go back to the Priory of Sion and all these other, maybe the Rosicrucians and all these different sects of Gnosticism or mysticism, and these people believed in stuff. Like, it may sound like a bunch of fairy tales and stuff like that, but these people were ready to put their lives down in it. Like, let me ask you a question, watcher, while you're here. What are you ready to give your life for? Are you ready to give your life for what you believe in? Because these people are. And that's what this is all about. And they clearly believe in something far greater than exists in this 3D world. And so if you're not questioning why these people are revealing this information now, what are they trying to get me to think, or what are they trying to get out? What type of mentality state or thinking state are they trying to get me out of? We go back to, again, the shadows are being exposed and the light is being revealed. And the light is the truth. The truth is meant for you to process. When you start taking in the truth, it's not just about the surface level truth. You have to go and take that truth and apply it to every part of your life. Well, if this is true, then that means that this must be true, then this must be true. Which shit, that means that this must be true. Like, you have to carry that truth all the way through the implications to tear apart the lies and the narratives that they've been trying to paint over our existence and over your true divinity, who you are on this planet.
It's a very deep onion to unravel, and it's really that's the challenge of it all. And that's what's so confronting about some of these truths, is it literally knocks over the pillars of what we believe, of the very structure of our belief systems. And this is the hard work that people aren't willing to do. And it's the awakening process is very confronting, and there's some people that aren't ready for it, that aren't willing to discard the old world. And there's going to be a point where we come to where you can't deny truth anymore. And I think ultimately the challenge of the coming age is to apply with every new revelation the old Cicero saying of cui bono, right? Who benefits? Because that's going to tell you what the point is of each revelation. And that's where we have to be careful with these new revelations of truth, is not to get captured again. Is like, we can't keep falling for the okie doke, because when
that is the point.
With the collapsing of structures, this is where I go back. I said this in part one of, like, order out of chaos, right? They know that this is just in the cosmos. They've known this was coming. This is why the great work of the ages has been carried out over the past several hundred years. Is like, these people have been following astrology since probably the beginning of time, and they're in bed with intelligence that's non-human. So the non-human intelligence that has been assisting the power structure has been foretelling and telling them about this time we're in right now, the age of Aquarius. Christ had a prophecy about the age of Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher. So for thousands of years, we've had the foreknowledge that the time period we're in right now is very crucial in understandings. So there have been steps. This is the checkers or chess, not checkers, right? This chess game is being played on several levels. This is 5D chess. So you have to, with every revelation, understand that there is implications beyond just the surface. And this is the challenge that we're in right now. This is why it's so crucial with every new revelation of truth, that once you grasp it, you have to also try to look at it from a bird's eye view of, okay, cui bono, who benefits from this knowledge? Like the Kennedy stuff, for example, who benefits, right? And then also, like, what are they still not telling us? And a lot of the Kennedy stuff I'm hearing I haven't delved into it. The stuff that's been revealed is that a lot of the redacted stuff from the past, this is from my brother who's been looking into it, has been about Israel's involvement. Israel was involved through the Jewish mafia, Meyer Lansky, and Meyer Lansky's connections to other Italian mafia, and there's a lot of implications of what Kennedy was involved with. Like right, like the people that wanted Kennedy dead, the CIA wanted him dead, the mafia wanted him dead. Like we talked about this a little bit in the Jack Cruz episode, several episodes back, where we're going to the Jack Cruz interview where he talks about some of this stuff, but um, a lot of the hidden stuff was Israel's involvement. The Mossad was involved in Kennedy's assassination. The Mossad was also involved in 9/11. So a lot of the stuff that's been hidden from us, right, is the Israel's involvement. This goes back to my reservations about Trump and his tied to Israel. Like Israel, there's a lot of things about Israel that have been kept from the public about what the creation of this state, the people involved in creating the state, the people behind the power structure of the state, and what it really the implications of this thing really is. And a lot of the Christians and the Jews have been caught up in their ideology and the prophecies about the return of Israel, the state of Israel, that they haven't looked into these things. Like what is really going on with Israel? And Israel has been involved in a lot of these very major, like black ops type of shit since the beginning. They've been in bed with the CIA, with Mossad and CIA since the 50s, right? Since their inceptions. This
Since
has been
OSS.
high, at OSS too, as well. Yeah. And MI6, all these black ops intelligence organizations of all these prominent MI6 is UK, ISS is Pakistan, right?
No,
Um,
OSS is actually originally the CIA before it was the CIA.
Okay, so ISS is the Pakistani intelligence, Mossad is Israel intelligence, CIA is our intelligence. All these are all the Black Army, right? This is the shadow army of the shadow government. Like this is how they
And
functioned.
The Jesuits are the intelligence arm of the Vatican, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, and the Jesuits are tied into all these organizations. It's all this is the octopus, right? Octopussy is the episode with Jack Cruz. Go back and check it out, Octopussy. But this is the octopus of behind the scenes. This is the type of stuff you need to come to acceptance of. There is a dark, shadowy wing of power behind the power structure that is being exposed right now. And the reason why Elon is being demonized so extensively is because he's just scratching the surface of what the funding of these organizations through dark organizations like USAID, which look like on the surface to be, oh, it's an aid organization designed to give aid to the needy, right, in these countries. But when you delve into this stuff, these are black ops fronts. And
Which, by the way, which I'll add real quick, I just saw a video on yesterday, and they go into the detail. I would recommend doing your research. If you look at USAID, wherever they were, they actually created more problems than they solved.
yeah, I was
Everywhere
watching,
they were.
dude. I was watching this video. I think she was an Indian. She was either Indian or Middle Eastern. I can't put my finger on where she was from, but she's intelligent. Or not intelligent. She was a diplomat, I think. But she was talking about U.S. aid and how a lot of countries are low key happy that this is being exposed because U.S. aid has been a force of destabilization in the countries where they're at. They've been funding anti-government organizations in these countries where they're at, and under the guise of aid, right, for
Mhm.
supplying aid. But they're actually been destabilizing governments, and this is the type of stuff that the CIA has been doing in South America for the entire existence. They've been funding coups and destabilizing governments in
Mhm.
South America, in the Middle East,
Yep.
in North
Watch, watch,
Africa.
watch the Zeitgeist, everyone. That's a good one to look at. They talk about it in that too.
Yeah, and North Africa with the Gaddafi stuff. Like the I think one of the most disruptive and destructive things of Obama's presidency was Benghazi, was Libya, because Gaddafi was made out to be some kind of like dictator, this horrible person, and he was demonized in our American media as this dictator when he brought Libya out of poverty. The literacy rate went from like 50% to 95% in his country. It was incredibly affluent when Gaddafi was deposed. and he was organizing to have a gold-backed African currency that would have made it that so Africa was self-sufficient, which couldn't happen according to the Western colonial powers that control the resources in Africa. Could not afford to have an Africa that was free and
or
self-sufficient. So
or strong.
he had to be demonized and he had to be taken out, and that's what happened. So like this is American or not American, but like world geopolitics. This
Global
is
geopolitics, yeah.
global geopolitics. This is the type of stuff that Americans have been dumbed down to the point where you guys don't look into shit. You guys don't look into these things. And Ukraine's another great example, right? Is like if you oppose Ukrainian aid, oh, you're a Putin sympathizer. But then you delve into the history of the region. In 2014, we funded a coup of the Ukrainian government. The Ukrainian government was fighting its own citizens in the Donbass region, which wanted to stay a part of Russia, right? Like the Donbass and there's one other region. This is why the war started. The war started over the Donbass region that wanted to be a part of Russia because they're Russian. They're ethnically Russian. They wanted to be a part of Russia. Ukraine said no, you can't be a part of Russia, and they were fighting their own civil. It was like a civil war, but we funded a coup of their government, and then we went back on these 1990s agreements that we had with Russia not to allow these different countries into NATO. We were slowly encroaching upon Russia's borders by allowing these new countries into NATO that we had agreed in the 90s not to do it. And then now they are trying to get Ukraine into NATO, that's right up on Russia's border. That's like having a military agreement. The Russians having a military agreement with Mexico, right? So like we wouldn't allow that shit. So it's like people don't understand geopolitics because it's only filtered to them and through this narrow mainstream media narrative of like, oh, if you don't support Ukraine, then you're a Putin sympathizer and you love Russia. Like this is the ideological shit. It's like they make you afraid of the truth by putting it in this black and white, one or the other type of shit when the world is like fucking shades of gray, and the entire geopolitical structure of the world is gray, but it's
So
presented to Americans on this black and white platter and be like, you got to choose one or the
right,
other. And if you choose this one, then you're a terrible person. If you choose that one, then you're righteous. And
right.
then
So
it's
so
just
imagine, so imagine, right? This is just the geopolitics that we have to deal with in 3D, okay? And the average human mind is not very capable of understanding the average human. I'm not saying that most people don't, but the average. Now, that's just the part that you see here. Now let's talk about exopolitics. Now it's like, oh shit. What did you talk about? Now what are you talking about? Which is the politics between realms, right? Because what's going to happen is now with all these revelations, we're going to realize that the scientists like Werner von Braun and all these German scientists, like they were in communications with entities that were outside of our realm. That's how they got a lot of their information. And let's talk about the Montauk Project, right? Which is like the is it the Philadelphia experiment? If we go back to Tesla's, original scalar technology that he discovered, which by the way, the scalar technology was scaled back because the scalar technology is actually what it's like interdimensional power to some degree that allows for you to get amplify things that to a way where like you can tap into the ethers, I guess you could say, with scalar technology. And so the powers that be are like, oh, well, no, we don't want that. That's too much. So they had to tune it back. And I forget what the term is. It starts with a T, but um, it's basically a downgraded version of technology, which runs at about like, I think it's like it's radio technology. It's what it is. Radio technology. It's frequency based, and it runs at like 185,000 feet per second, something like that. Whereas a scalar technology runs somewhere around 291,000 feet per second. And so it's definitely more amplified. Now, all this stuff like this is interdimensional communications, right? Like we're talking with energies that are not in our realm, and to be able to achieve things like zero G technologies and stuff like that, some people be like, oh, that's science fiction. Let me tell you guys, some people could tell me that UFOs are not real, that UFOs are us and all this stuff. I don't personally believe that that human beings, like if we could barely operate airplanes or F-16s or Blackbirds and all that stuff like as human beings, I sent you 3 links to 3 videos that are on YouTube relating to one video I personally shot with my own. As a matter of fact, Gary, if you're watching, I love you. This camera right here, okay? I recorded that video I sent you with this camera, okay? And this camera right here, okay? It's a Sony camera. I recorded that video, oh, whoops, in 2015 when I was on my way to Vegas. I was in the Mojave Desert and I was just filming, I'm just trying to capture the view. And years later, it wasn't until 2018 when I'm like, oh, look at this footage. And I start reviewing it that I see things flying across my screen. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I slowed it down. I added it, and I added you the regular speed slowed down version and then a full frame version. And the reason for that is because that was actually the weekend that not only did I discover that UFOs were in fact real, and at the speed at which those things were moving, there's nothing that I can tell you that exists right now that maybe it could be human made. I don't know, but whoever was operating it, it was something far greater than what we have today. And if you watched how fast this whatever this thing was, it was flying straight at a mountain range, okay? And if you know anything about physics and about airplanes, if an airplane's about to crash or into a plane and like you see all those movies where like pulling back as far as they can and like we're not gonna make it, right? Like this thing was going literally like this, like you couldn't even see it like this, and it was going as fast horizontally as it was going vertically over the mountain range. And I mean, it went at the blink of an eye, and I captured it on camera, and that was like, okay, there's no way this is human, no way. And so, exopolitics goes back to the relationship that we've had with these interdimensional beings that have been giving us these technologies that have led us all up until to modern day. And this technology is it just means that we're definitely far more behind than what our minds can comprehend right now. And I've said this before. I said this in one of our previous I think I even maybe said this in my interview that I did with you before we started the podcast, which was, we talk about like, and I admire, Elon's tenacity for trying to do interstellar travel and stuff like that. And I question like why not tap into those connections, which has the zero-G technology to do the inner space, to do the spaceship stuff, because we know the technology exists now. It's just a matter of why continue the facade of rocketry, like we don't have this other stuff available to us, right? And I say that because, we talk about trying to go interstellar and stuff like that, but let me tell you something. If there really is a galactic, forget about the Galactic Federation, right? Which some people think it's a psyop, and it may be, but if they're trying to lead you to a good thing, it's just take it for what the intention is, not for what it is. Okay, it could be a psyop to try and correct you onto the right path of what they're trying to tell you, but the importance is that if there's galactic beings out there and life is far like greater than what we imagine, us as being a primitive, violent, species, the last thing galactic beings want is to have a violent species trying to go to another planet and start an interplanetary war. It's like taking a knife to a gunfight. Like these guys have been around for a long, long time. Like these guys could probably wipe out this planet in the push of a button if they wanted to. Now, because we're all connected, I don't think that there's any benefit to that because there is divine and cosmic law at play, right? If God wanted to destroy the universe, he wouldn't have to think about it. He would just fucking destroy the universe. That's not the point of this.
Let me weigh in on this a little bit.
Go ahead.
So we've been talking about, the shift in consciousness, and there are powers that be that have seen this coming, I was talking about this earlier where they follow astrology. They're the people that run the world, who are the power structure, are in contact with these non-human intelligence that has known this is coming because they read the astrology, right? They see the system that we're in, and how, you were talking about Kali Yuga, right? This is a system. We're in a geometrically structured system that God put in place. It's based on geometry, and they know when certain things are happening. They knew that this big awakening was coming in the age of Aquarius. And part of what you're seeing with it, like this is my take. This is just my download of me, expressing what I feel is coming and what's happening. These structure or these craft, right? They are in tune with spiritual technology. I think the only way that you could control something moving that quickly is if it's directly connected to your body, your light
Or
body,
consciousness.
consciousness. This is consciousness. This is
Right.
conscious craft. I think
Yep.
it's tied in. This technology is tied into spiritual consciousness,
Yep.
and we're at
1000%.
this we're at this precipice of this lifting of the veil where we see what humanity is really capable of when it's operating at its highest structure and its evolutionary phase. Like you're saying with the violence, right? We have been a violent species for this whole past couple of eons, I'm guessing, of our development, and now we're coming to this peak, this big time shift that's happening, that they've foreseen coming. And I think a lot of what's happening is these beings, they're either nefarious or they're benevolent, right? The benevolent ones want to guide us into that next phase. The nefarious ones are just elements of the shadow that want to stop us, right? And I think there's both of this at play. And I think the
Mhm.
benevolent ones are here to guide us because they see the shift coming, and they're going to disclose the ability of our bodies, the technology of our bodies, how to enlighten ourselves through the Kundalini, through the mystic traditions that have been encoded in our past stuff. Like this is all culminating right now. We're at the culmination point where we're about to have all this stuff disclosed. All this truth is about to be unveiled. Our true potential, what these ideological scriptures were really saying, and the ways that those scriptures have been misinterpreted, that stuff's going to come to light. Science, technology, and mathematics, and all the quantum physics and metaphysics, how it all ties together. All of this stuff is ingrained, is interconnected, and it's all
Yep.
coming to the surface, and it's all coming to a head right now. And the reason why all this stuff we're saying is so crucial, guys, is because the truth of what's really happening here is so mind-bendingly different than what we've been accustomed to, that you have to just release. You have to be willing to release what you think this is in order
Yeah.
to step to that next level. Because what's coming is so mind-bendingly crazy to what we've been accustomed to, that you're going to be left in this state of absolute psychological devastation at
Yeah.
the collapsing of the structures of society. Because what's
Right.
coming in the age of Aquarius is going to literally shift us into a new paradigm with non-human intelligence being interacting with us and helping guide us to this next evolutionary stage where we come back to Eden consciousness before the fall of man, where we've been in this low vibrational state for eons. We're coming out of this point, and like the way we get out of it is to be able to release and detach from what was thought to be true.
Yep.
That's where we're at. That is the true um disclosure,
Yeah.
is that we're on the precipice of something that is mind-bendingly so different, a reality that is going to be so hard to accept if you're tied in and grasping onto the old world. The old world is dying, and the age of Aquarius is ushering in this new era where we're going to have heaven on earth.
Yep.
But the shadow is trying to keep us from doing it. And
Yep.
that
And I do want to add.
whether that be non-human
um,
intelligence or light driven intelligence, the angels or the demons, right? It's
right.
a spiritual warfare that's happening, that's trying to either usher in this new era or keep you in the old. This is the splitting of consciousness, the splitting of the earths. And this
Right.
has been foretold for a long time. So I hope that this episode's been informative. Like, we're down to 3 minutes left. I think that's a good place to end it. But this is all encompassing. This is what we have to come to the understanding of with the disclosure of these new truths of coming into a new earth, because that's what we've been put on this planet at this point in time. That's what you've been incarnated here to do, is to whoever you are. If you're watching this, whether you're on the spiritual path or you're just starting to walk into this type of information that we're giving you, this is why you're here. And the reason you're watching this right now, you're listening to me speak, is because you have been chosen through your own free will to choose to help humanity evolve into this new phase. This is where we're
Right.
going. And the sooner you come to understand that the truth of the world is vastly different than you've been accustomed to and you've been conditioned to, if you're willing to leave that old world behind and detach from the lies, we will come
You
into
will
a
be free.
wonderful.
You will be free. Plain and simple. If you can acknowledge the truths that are coming your way, you will be free. You will be free from the burdens that this world has imposed upon you. And with
And you
that, I
shall have,
leave you because I love you guys.
yeah,
Come back for more. We're going to be posting more stuff and talking about more of this crazy stuff that's been going on in our world. So stay tuned. I'm out.
you shall have the truth, and the truth shall set you free. We love you. See you next time.
Peace.